Welcome to the official YouTube channel for me, the Colin Cowherd Podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of our football content this postseason. Going to have instant reactions after every big game. Thanks. All right, instant reaction. 40-34. The Lions roar back in the second half thanks to two Brock Purdy interceptions. And, it really cracks me up. If you're listening to this, you have a team and you're a fan. Many of you are Niner fans. Some of you are Lion fans. You have to be an adult if you're a general manager. You're watching John Lynch on TV tonight. How did he react with those Brock Purdy picks? Baker Mayfield's making $33 million this year. Brock Purdy is not nearly as talented as Baker Mayfield. One's a first-round pick. One's a number one pick. One's the last guy picked. Baker's got a better arm. I think Baker's a better athlete. Baker leads the NFL in touchdown passes. The entire NFL, including Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, since he started in Tampa. He's got Mike Evans. Everybody's got a receiver. Everybody's got at least one decent receiver. So, here's a prime example. So, defensive players in the NFL get hurt more than offensive players statistically. And Detroit's down like 7 or 8 starters. So this was a moment to really seize an opportunity to beat Detroit. I thought Detroit would win, and my takeaway was because I trusted Goff on the road more than Brock Purdy at home. I thought it would be a high-scoring game just because the Lions, that's all they can play now. They have so many players down. And listen, it doesn't help that Jake Moody missed a 51-yarder and a 58-yarder and a PAT. But, folks, there's a reason they were settling for 51-yarders and 58-yarders. Because there was, for instance, a key third down pass by Brock Purdy in the second half to Jawan Jennings that was behind him. I just don't understand how you can watch Brock Purdy. In fact, I'd argue when he got hurt, he'll be fine, but when he got dinged up, they put in Josh Dobbs, who ran for a touchdown that athletically Brock Purdy would not have raced to the corner and got into the end zone. He could have scrambled, but he's not as fast or as athletic as Josh Dobbs, who's a pretty remarkable player who just bounces around the league, and he's always pretty effective. But people get so caught up on statistics. Well, he had 377 yards. First of all, Shanahan is one of the great play scripters in the league. Andy Reid and Shanahan are probably 1 and 2 in the league. Sean Payton's probably third. Those three guys. Bo Nix played Justin Herbert a week ago. Bo Nix looked way better in the first half than Justin Herbert. Why? Because the first half is scripted. In the second half against the Chargers defense, Bo Nix didn't look as good. That's about talent. In the first half, Brock Purdy on Kyle Shanahan's script is remarkable. In the second half, 2 picks behind Jawan Jennings on a key third down throw. Here are the numbers for Brock Purdy in the second half this year. And again, the first half, especially when you have elite offensive coordinators or elite play designers like Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Shanahan. McVay, by the way, is not an elite play designer. The Rams have been an average offense all first half. Nick Sirianni's an offensive coach. He's not an elite play designer. Not all offensive coaches are. Dan Campbell's more offensive side. He's not an elite play designer. Purdy in the second half. First half, off and on script. Second half is talent. Purdy, second half this year. 8 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's bad. Jaden Daniels is remarkable in the fourth quarter. Brock Purdy's awful. This is not his first year in the league. He's got Kyle Shanahan. And the other thing is, Shanahan, you get so many open Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle opportunities. And this is what Andy Reid does. I mean, Andy Reid in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, in their first Super Bowl win without Tyreek Hill, he's getting Sky Moore wide open looks in the red zone, that congested area. That's what great play designers do. By the way, Ben Johnson's very good tonight in the red zone, down near the goal line. Jared Goff had open receivers. That's what clever coaches do. So, I'm not saying Jared Goff isn't benefiting from a good O-line and an excellent play designer, but this is the second team Goff has done that with. And McVay's not known as a brilliant play designer. He is a culture guy. He's got a great eye for personnel. He's a motivator. He designs excellent run games. But so many of the completions for Brock Purdy are to wide open players. But the difference between good and great in this league is squeezing the ball in these little holes. Darnold did that yesterday multiple times. Jaden Daniels did that. Hell, Michael Penix had a throw like that yesterday for a touchdown for Atlanta. The opening was the size of a football. And Penix has real velocity. I mean, he can really cut it loose. So Brock Purdy isn't big, isn't super athletic, doesn't have a big arm, and benefits greatly from Shanahan's play calling. He's good. He's functional. But the idea I'm going to pay him 40 and 50 million. Baker's making 33 million. You got to be kidding me. Yeah, it's just 8 touchdowns, 10 picks in the second half this year. And he was the difference in the game tonight. Don't blame the kicker. Those 2 second half picks, that was the difference. So, when listen, Detroit is one of those teams like Minnesota right now, where they've got spectacular offensive players and excellent coaching. Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. Well, Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for Detroit. Ben Johnson. So a lot of this stuff is coaching. A lot of this stuff, when you look at the teams in this league, Spags and Andy Reid. I mean, look at San Francisco when they had DeMeco Ryans and Shanahan. That was their best staff, in my opinion. Look at the results. You're getting to Super Bowls. You're getting to conference championships. So I think with Purdy, you just have to be totally honest. I would just play it out. I'm not going to pay him. You want to sit out, go ahead, but I need to see another year. There's no way I'm paying him early. No shot. Don't care what he does. Don't care if he sits. If Sam Darnold's available, go pay for him. And this is not hate. Second half numbers, abysmal. Second half is off script. That's when the true talent comes out. That's when you see Mahomes win Super Bowls. Second half ad-libbing. That's when Justin Herbert has been pretty spectacular. That's when Josh Allen takes over games. There's this sense that the AFC, because it's got the Bills and the Ravens and the Chiefs, is much better than the NFC. But the NFC is wide open. I mean, the Bucs are 3-0 against NFC playoff teams. They beat Washington, Detroit, and Philly. And the Lions could potentially, they've been media darlings all year. They're a 1 loss on Sunday night against Minnesota from being the number 5 seed going to Tampa or LA. And they beat LA, remember earlier this year in overtime. LA was all beat up. LA is now the healthiest team in the league. The Rams are the healthiest team in the league. All their starters are back. And they gave Detroit pushback when they were all banged up. Now Detroit's all banged up. So Detroit's been this media darling all year long. Can you imagine going to Tampa and facing that defensive line, which doesn't allow you to run? And, Montgomery comes back. Maybe that's the difference. But if Montgomery's not ready for a playoff game, yikes. I mean, the NFC, you got the Commanders at the bottom of the NFC. Houston won a division in the AFC. Houston's a mess right now. Washington is sneaking in. I would want no part of Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, Cliff Kingsbury, and Washington. I would want no part of that. So the NFC is deeper. Their bottom is much stronger than the AFC, whereas the AFC's top's probably better. But, it's funny. We've been watching all year. Just the NFC North is fascinating. So all year we're like, Detroit's the team, Green Bay's second, little young, and Minnesota's a great story. If Minnesota beats Detroit, they're the best team. Green Bay is still a little young, and Detroit goes to LA or Tampa, all beat up defensively. And I want to go back to that. You got to win this game tonight if you're San Francisco. I don't want excuses. How many backups are playing for Detroit on the defensive side? They were there for the taking. Detroit was there for the taking tonight. I know you guys think I'm not a Brock Purdy guy. I am for $32 million after next season. But if you want me to pay him big boy money now, a year early, not remotely interested. Not going to happen. Let him sit out. I mean, I've been saying this for 8 weeks. I think the Niners are in a rebuild. They just don't know it yet. I mean, if you can't beat Detroit at home the week before their game of the year, when they were there for the taking, you're not that close. 40-34, Detroit. How good is football? I want to add one NBA topic. So Adam Silver, I was told the NBA got a hold of me and said Adam Silver is going to be in LA. He'd like to come on my show. I'd love to have him. He's the guest I've been asking to get for about a year. And J-Mac got people riled up when he said one of the problems that the NBA has been having is their most popular show with Barkley and Shaq, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. They're very, very critical of the NBA. And every time you tune in, they're super critical of the NBA. And to that, I would say timeout. Because the top reporters in the NBA do not want to lose access to the top agents, and they break all these stories, that by and large, NBA coverage can border on pandering. It's really, really pretty tame. I mean, NFL coverage, NFL reporters, and talk show hosts crush NFL players. Crush them. I think the Barkley Shaq show works because it's the only coverage of the NBA that is critical. NBA TV is not. I think ESPN feels like they are the network of the NBA, and it feels like it very complimentary. So Shaq and Barkley and Kenny are the one critical place for NBA coverage, and they should be. The league's got issues. There's too many 3-point shots. The domestic players, the young players, don't feel like they're as skilled or as focused as many of the international players. That's not negative criticism. That's forthright, upfront, and completely honest to me. I like the NBA, especially the playoffs. But I, for instance, baseball is a very tough sport for a reporter to be critical because 162 games, spring training, you're with these players around the clock. They'll shut you out. I've had friends. I wrote a couple books with a guy named Tim Kuhn, who used to cover the San Francisco Giants. And he's like, listen, man, you get in the bad side of players and you're a virus. They will just stay away from you. They'll shut you out for the season. NBA is different. There's half as many games. There's also a lot of times, even on your own team, the stars have their separate agents and separate camps, and there's more divisions. But NBA coverage, by and large, is very favorable. Home announcing teams aren't critical. Your Shams, Woj, when he worked in it, they're not beating guys over the head. It's a pretty tame media landscape in the NBA. The one show that's critical is that one, and the audience likes it. Fans like it. It's not all critical. I mean, I watch Inside the NBA on a regular basis. There have been nights I watch that more than the game. I'll literally tune in. It's on TV. I'll watch the halftime show or the pregame show. I'll watch 15 minutes of the game, get bored, and leave. I watch more of the pregame show and the halftime show than the game, especially in October, November, December, January. I don't think it's all negative. It's probably 50-50 split, but you remember the negative stuff more than the positive stuff. But leagues are covered differently. Like international soccer, I've read some of the coverage of international soccer. Those guys are rock stars. There's really strong opinions in international soccer from the people who cover it. The NFL, college football, very strong opinions on coaches. Maybe that's just a football culture in America. We're more critical. But usually basketball, it's a long season. Not a lot of reporters have fangs and much of a bite. That's not a criticism. It's just the reality of my entire life of watching NBA basketball and the media that covers it. So if Inside the NBA is the one guys that occasionally bring out the anvil, But I mean, just you watch. Listen to listen to NFL reporters and former players of the NFL, highly critical on a regular basis of the NFL. Any show, anytime I bring somebody on my show, and I don't think they're negative people, they'll be critical. Regularly be critical of players and coaches. It comes with a territory. It's so infrequent in the NBA, you notice it when you hear it from Barkley.